Please rise for the playing of the national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free, from far and wide. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Niagara Region and Grimsby are situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattaway-Wendourong, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The Regional Municipality of Niagara and the Town of Grimsby stand with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. All right, now we move. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Before we approve the agenda, I just want to give a brief comment about our Santa Claus parade this weekend. It was pretty amazing. The little bit of rain couldn't dampen the spirits, but I think it was the best parade ever, in my opinion, and I think I've been in 14 or 15 of them. And it was just really well done, and I just commend everyone. Everyone was pretty happy watching it, and it was just a fantastic parade. So I just want to say that it was amazing. So thank you, everyone, and thank the parade committee as well. All right, now we move to the, actually we have some amendments. Bonnie, thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. There was some administrative errors for your agenda this evening that I want to bring to your attention. Councillor Devoli's notice of motion on keeping of domestic farm animals was missed during the publishing of the agenda. It has been added and will appear on the screen at the appropriate time. Amendment to bylaw number 2399, a bylaw to appoint a municipal enforcement officer and property standards officer for the town of Grimsby. We amended section 1 to read correctly that Emily McNeil is hereby appointed to be a municipal law enforcement officer and property standards officer for the town of Grimsby under the direction of the Director of Legislative Services and the town clerk. Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee Endorsement Package, Section 3, should read 7 Kerman Avenue instead of 25 Kerman Avenue, so it's just a typo. And Mr. Mayor, if you would allow me a moment to speak, I'd like to clarify some confusion that's circulating regarding 16.5, the Ombudsman's letter.
Great.
I'd like to help clarify some information, if you're okay with that.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. So as stated in the, I just wanted to ensure correctness, so I spoke to the Ombudsperson's office today. So as stated in the letter, and to highlight, the closed meeting of February 21st, 2023 did not contravene the Municipal Act. The subject matter did fit into within the exception. That is there, not my high-level verdict. Also, it is rare that they would send a notice of investigation to the clerk at all. They rarely do that. They did for the Tri-Council meeting. You all were aware of that. However, that is definitely not their norm. It was an exception to their rules. There is no requirement to share with council unless explicitly told otherwise by the Ombudsman's office. And there are also instances where the clerk may reach out to council if it's necessary or important to do so, or there may be a specific interest. But again, there is no requirement to do so. I think it's important to note. So most municipalities share information from the Ombudsperson's office through the publishing of their agendas, again, for various reasons. Some of those I won't go into at this time, but if you feel you would like to clarify that with me, please feel free to reach out. Finally, the Ombudsman determines his own procedures. Basically, that's what they said, and they can really set the stage and do what they please. So that's basically what I wanted to put out there tonight to help, hopefully, with some of the confusion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Bonnie. Now we need Councillor Charlois.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. I just wanted a clarification. So does that mean that you were able to reach out to us and give us some information, or you were not?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, at the time when I was told that there was possibly an investigation, I was never told that they were going to investigate. And they asked me for information that they would review and get back to me on whether there would be an investigation. And when they did, I met with them, and I believe the information that I shared with them was confidential. And I advised them that I was doing it to really protect some members of council around the table who felt they had an issue. And so that's why I did it. And it was done on the fly. I explained it all to them very carefully, and I left it at that, so it wouldn't, that's how I left it.
Thank you. Yeah, because when I did call, it did sound like we could have gotten information, so that's, I appreciate you clarifying that. And also on the website, it says that when there is an investigation as well, that they ask for information. So I would just hope if this ever came up again, that there's some asking of other parties as well. That's all. Thanks, Molly.
Thank you.
Well, certainly for me, if I'm called by the Ombudsman's office and they ask me to keep it confidential, I do that. Can I get a mover and seconder to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Bradzi. Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Bradzi. Resolved that the December 4th, 2023 council meeting agenda be approved as amended. All in favor? That's carried. All right, now we move to Chair's reports. First up, we have Planning and Development Committee. We received some Heritage meeting minutes. We had a consent report and a planning Niagara Escarpment discussion report, and we adjourned at 5:12. So it was a 12-minute meeting. So it was our record, I think. So that's all I have to report. Up next, we have Councillor DeFlavio with Public Works Committee.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. So there were a few reports that evening. One was the DWQ-MS, which is the Drinking Water Quality Management System report. The town is required, as a result of Walkerton and other regulatory changes, to have an annual report on and inspections of our water management system. So that was done. Our annual salt management plan and our winter control maintenance were dealt with that evening as well. Further to that, there were some discussions regarding a petition from residents on Burgess Drive. There was concerns by the residents of Burgess Drive. This is related to some of our parking changes that are occurring close to the hospital. People have concerns that there will be a ripple effect if we change parking on streets that are adjacent to the hospital, that it'll just move the problem down the road. So the committee's our Public Works staff is going to report back on that. Member Smink asked about the Transportation Master Plan and when the consultant would be starting the project. The TMP has gone out for RFP, for requests for proposals, and they're looking at early January for awarding of the RFP. There was also inquiry about the Downtown Reimagined project, which I hope people got a chance to attend on Thursday, the open house that occurred at our Station 2 on the escarpment. So there was and there was also the parking management study, which came forward last week as well, which was on Tuesday at the Peach King Center. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them. There was also discussion about streetlight maintenance, and it's an ongoing concern. Those who have been around for a while might recall that Grimsby Power used to do the streetlights for the town of Grimsby, but a provincial change required that a master electrician be involved in the lights, in the changing of any work on lights in the town of Grimsby, and therefore it had to be contracted out to a new contractor. And it's been like that for 5 or 6 years since that was passed at the provincial level. People are concerned that the light changes are not occurring fast enough because the town waits to have a critical mass to call the subcontractor in so that multiple lights could be changed at once rather than one at a time. It saves money that way. It makes like a day of work instead of a few, instead of an hour of work, because we are charged per call as well. So, but we have asked staff to review that, and we would like to have a discussion about that at Public Works, because there are, of course, safety issues related to lights on the streets and things like that we want to make sure are being looked after. So I think that's it, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor DeFlavio. Up next, we have Community Services, Councillor Sharwa.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Okay, so we had a delegation from Simon Duong regarding the Peach King Center expansion. He explained, the importance of the Peach King Arena and the name, and he has requested that the name stay the same during the renovation. We had some chat about that and just discussed, the finances of it, and, if there was a company that came forward with a substantial amount of money to donate towards the project, then we'd be looking at that. So he's aware of that. Sarah Sweeney gave a report to do with the Community Project Grant Program, and there are 4 not-for-profits that they requested receive funding. So the Hamilton Naturalist Club, which is mainly the bigger lagoons, was $2,500. Grimsby and District Lions Club, $2,500. Nellis Manor Heritage House, $1,600. Parasport Ontario, $2,500. So that was carried. Claire Bazinski and Samantha Leger from SEMA came and gave their presentation to the committee regarding the Trails Master Plan. And they were looking for endorsement of the plan in principle, and that was carried. Krista Bowie, the Supervisor of Programs and Services, gave a summary of mainly the summer programming and the aquatics programs, and trying to alleviate some of the demand for the swim programs that some of our residents are having issues getting into. So they're going to try to prioritize giving residents a 1-month jump start before they open it up to neighboring municipalities that are looking to get into our programs. So that is all.
Thank you, Councillor Sharwa. Next, we have adoption of the previous minutes. Can I get a mover and seconder? Councillor Vardy, Councillor Bradzi. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Bradzi. Resolved that the following minutes be approved. Corporate Services Committee, November 6th. Council, November 20th. Planning and Development Committee, November 22nd. Public Works Committee, November 27th. Community Services Committee, November 28th. And Special Council on November 29th. All in favor? Well, does he want to lift?
To lift, yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Howe, you'd like to lift something?
Yes.
Through you, Chair, community services 8.5.
All right, so that's been lifted for separate consideration, so we'll, yeah, it's 8.5, so.
Is it Resolution 23?
All right, so we mover by Councillor Howe, we just need a seconder to lift it. Councillor Korsanji. Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Korsanji. Resolved that Resolution CS 23-046, number 8.5, from the Community Services Minutes of November 28th, 2023, be lifted for separate consideration. Councillor Howe? Oh, yeah, we need to vote to lift, so that's carried.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Howe.
It's through you, Chair. First of all, and this kind of a reiteration of what I said at the committee meeting, this is a very significant report and well-written and very descriptive and answers a whole lot of questions. And I think it gives certainly staff going forward, some guidance and some direction to go. But with the capital B, and if anybody's looked all the way through it, you're going to see some significant numbers. It can be worked out, but I have a concern about one particular sentence on page 87 of 160 on the of what we had on that agenda. And if I may read, the town should prioritize the implementation of a set of escarpment stairs at the base of Centennial Park and proceed with the necessary approvals and design. It's the only place in the whole report where it says to go forward and start doing something. And to me, it removes us from the equation. And if you look through that, you'll see the operating costs. And this is from the consultants that we're looking at an estimated cost with the Centennial Trail itself, and it's not real extensive, plus the stairs is $1,451,000, not including operational expenses to keep that going. You'll never have just one person up there with an old broom cleaning off the stairs. It'll have to be, and top down. The dollars in it for what I perceive to be the return are very minimal and almost scary. When we think about, $2 million, what could we do with $2 million in respect to roads and sidewalks, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know if that line can be removed from that report. Can that section be deferred? I'm not sure, but it's got to come out of there in my mind. Or it has to be identified as its own freestanding project, and then we can deal with it. But so I'm not sure of the exact.
Sarah, did you want
Thank you.
comment? Thank you.
Yeah, through the mayor. So the wording perhaps is a little bit confusing. Certainly, we would never advance the project without the proper approval process. So it would have to go through a capital project or even an operating project if there needs to be some feasibility work for it. So it wouldn't advance on its own. I don't know if it's possible that we can potentially just note that in the wording of the report, and maybe the clerk is telling me no, but I can at least clarify, and finance could as well, even like the process for us would be, if we were starting a new project, it would be put forward for a budgetary request first. So it wouldn't proceed on its own without council having that opportunity to decide whether or not they would proceed with it.
Go ahead, Bonnie.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a question to Sarah. Was the report written by a consultant, so it's not ours to change? That's number one. And number two, I thought it read with necessary approvals.
if I can, as long as that is clear. And Director Sweeney and myself have had a couple of discussions on this. And because it's got a big tag on it without a lot, and and I take a look at Beamers, and it's been there a lot longer and takes a lot more people up and down, and that poor access there could use a little bit of TLC. So, but that's my concern, is if it's going to be addressed as its own package and we can deal with it, then I'm okay if that's the way it has to go. Through you, Bonnie?
Go ahead, sir.
Through the mayor, that is absolutely the intention. It would be put forward through a proper process. You would have proper opportunity to take a look at that and make that decision. So, if the wording was a little bit, concerning, I understand that, but I can assure you that is the process, that it would fall into the same sort of budgetary process that all of our other projects would.
All right. Any further questions? All right, now we'll move back to the adoption of previous minutes. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Bradzi. Resolved that the following minutes be approved. Corporate Services Committee, November 6th. Council, November 20th. Planning and Development, November 22nd. Public Works Committee, November 27th. Community Services, November 28th. And Special Council, November 29th. All in favor? That's carried. Now we move to council endorsement package to Grimsby Heritage Advisory. We need a mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor DeFlavio. Resolved that moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor DeFlavio. Resolved that the Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee council endorsement package be approved. All in favor? That's carried. All right, now we move to the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee. Need a mover and seconder for the endorsement package. Councillor Frake, Councillor Bradzi. Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Bradzi. Resolved that the Grimsby Green Advisory Committee council endorsement package be approved. All in favor? That's carried. All right, now we move to section 10.1 and 2, receipt of board minutes, Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee, November 14th, Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee, November 15th. Need a mover and seconder. Councillor DeFlavio, Councillor Howe. Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Howe. Resolved that the following board minutes be received. Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee, November 14th. Grimsby Green Advisory Committee, November 15th. All in favor? That's carried. All right, now we move to section 11, announcements. Are there any announcements from council? Councillor Korstanji.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I would just like to commend, again, going back to the parade, community services staff. I volunteered in the first ever accessibility viewing area, parking area for the parade, and it was fantastic and everything went very smooth. So we had, it was set up really well, so thank you for that, and it was very easy to do, which was great. We had residents from surrounding municipalities come specifically for that area, which is fantastic. And just a special shout out to local resident Phil, who works that corner every year, who is absolutely phenomenal at his job, and we are very lucky to have him. It is a very busy corner with traffic, and he has got it down to a T. So we would be lost without him, so we need to keep him around for sure. So thank you, Phil, if you're watching.
Councillor Howe.
If I can, just a quick note about the parade, and I mentioned it to Director Sweeney, and you got somebody else saying in the crowd that can relate to this, but there'd be a man that was director of Rec and Parks in this town for quite a while, Jim Wright, and he would just be astounded at what we turned out there on Saturday night. That was the best damn parade that there is in Ontario, as far as I'm concerned. But he'd been proud, and his family's got to be just proud as punch. Thank you.
Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. I just wanted to remind people about the two big projects that are going on, the downtown and Grimsby on the Lake parking study and the Downtown Reimagined project. It's a busy time of year for people, and I don't want them to get lost in the shuffle. They are very important projects for the near future of Grimsby. What happens with the Downtown Reimagined will be what the downtown looks like for the next 25 or 30 years. Probably it's been a long time since we've done any work on the downtown of this scale. So there are opportunities for input. I hope people will go to the Let's Talk Grimsby website and provide their say, have their say in the matter. There's discussions about what the parking will look like downtown, what the sidewalks will look like, what the future parking needs are for downtown and Grimsby on the Lake. So please, if you have an opportunity, look those things over. Provide your input to staff so that we have as many voices as possible in what the future of Grimsby's downtown is going to look like. And I wanted to echo everybody else's sentiment about the parade, Your Worship. I think this was my 17th, and my first election, I remember one of the first things that we did was the parade, because it's so early in the term that we were on the, and it was overwhelming then, and it's still overwhelming now when you come down the dip in the downtown and look up and see all those people waiting in the downtown. It's still a pretty incredible feeling to be on top of a float looking out there, and I'll never get tired of it. Every year I think, do I want to stand in this rain? Do I want to? And every year the answer is always yes, because it's a pretty cool thing. So thanks to the staff who do that every year, and to all of the volunteers on the committee, because it is the best small town parade in Ontario without a doubt.
Councillor Vardy.
Following in that, just because you said, Councillor DeFlavio, it's the best small-town parade. My son's girlfriend, who's from Seoul, Korea, it was the first time she'd ever, and him, had watched the parade. And they couldn't believe what a fantastic, huge parade a small town like Grimsby would have. So to give you a sort of an outsider's, like very much of an outsider perspective, it was really appreciated, and it's just sort of the thoughts where it was awesome. So there.
Great. Certainly we're all in agreement that it was an amazing parade. All right, now we move to report PA 23-39, consent report, council direction report. Councillor Frake?
Yeah, I'd like to lift the 12.1 PA 2339.
All right, lifted for separate discussion. Report's been lifted. Councillor Frake, would you like to lead the discussion?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to draw everyone's attention to Appendix A, which is a letter from a family that lives at, what's the number, 266 Main Street West. It's very clear they do not want their house listed. And I have to endorse their thought. I mean, it's their home. They paid the money to buy this home. It's been their home, like in this case, for 41 years. They do not want their house listed. So why should they have to list their house if they don't want to do that? I think it's totally unfair and it's unjust. And on top of that, we're asking them to list their house, but we're not going to give them any support financially to do any of the work they need to do to keep that house heritage. So I cannot agree, and I cannot vote in favor of that particular. And I welcome other folks around the chamber here to convince me otherwise. But I mean, I believe that if it's your home and you don't want to designate, I think that's the way it should be. So I welcome any other comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Through you, Chair. That particular, that address is on would be part of bylaw 2396. and would like to defer that to January 22nd. Defer that decision till January 22nd. I'm sorry?
Yeah, so I just had clarification from the clerk. What we're going to do is break them up. So the 266 will be deferred, and we'll vote on the other two tonight.
That makes sense. Okay. Start with, yeah.
So I'll read the first resolution. Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that report PA 23-39, Council Direction Report 332 Main Street West and 360 Main Street West and 266 Main Street West dated December 4th, 2023 be received, and the council proceed with the passing of the designation bylaws for the properties at 332 Main Street West and 360 Main Street West. All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that council defer the 266 Main Street West designation bylaw 23-96 until staff meet with the homeowners and bring this back to council for the January 15th, 2024 meeting. All in favor? And that's carried. All right. Up next, we have Report 13.1, PA 23-39, Council Direction. Oh, sorry. Never mind. We did that already. All right, here we go. Yeah, next we have Discussion Report FIN 23-33, Grimsby Community Development Grant 2023-2024, Organization Recipients. Can I get a mover and seconder to get this item on the floor for discussion? Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Vardy. All right, staff has a summary? No? Okay, all right. Okay, any discussions or comments? Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Worship, through you. So I just wanted some clarification. What we're approving tonight is based on the 2023 budget? Is that, or, because it says 2023, 2024. So is the $100,000 we're approving today, it's already been budgeted for, it's already, so if these same organizations wanted to come back and apply for 2024, would they be able to apply again?
Good evening, Stephanie. Go ahead.
Good evening, and through the chair to the councillor. These projects tonight are based on a 2023 budget approval for a pilot program. So nothing has been determined yet for 2024. So what you'll see is in the budget process this year, we'll bring this forward to see if council wants to move forward with that or not. But these amounts have been budgeted for 2023 and are funded.
Thank you, Worship, through you. Okay, that's great. Because then I can oppose it in the new budget for 2024, because I don't want it to be a permanent thing, but I do think that these organizations and these particular ones are ones that I'm in favor of. So, thank you.
Councillor Frake.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. I would like to speak to were there only 3 applicants for this particular grant?
Yeah, through the mayor to the councillor, yes, that's correct. We received 3 applicants.
I just want to speak to the one for community living. I mean, it's unfortunate that they're a great organization. They do a lot of work for the town, especially for family assisted living, and they've got $0. I'd just like for you to qualify why they didn't get anything. I mean, absolutely nothing. And they are, and there's only 3 applicants supplied. I would have thought we'd find something in there for that one other one that didn't get anything at all, and they were looking for the $18,000. So can you tell me why that way they fell off the mark there?
Yeah, through the mayor to the councillor. Yes, absolutely. So there's a policy behind this piece of work and a matrix that helps to score. So there were 3 staff members, one from finance, one from community services, one from admin, and 2 lay members of other committees that reviewed the applications in totality, and they marked them against the matrix, similar to how you would do a procurement or other offering. And there was a requirement within the policy that a score of 65 had to be the minimum in order to be considered for funding. In this case, I wasn't part of the scoring, but what I understand is that there wasn't enough information within the application for them to be able to score it above a 65. So there were some gaps in information and in the actual application. So the members themselves, when they came up with the scoring, and I believe they went back and did some scoring together as well, consensus scoring. And then what happened in this as well is that those scores are then used to allocate. So anything above 65, then those scores are used to apportion the amount, the 100,000, because we only had 100,000. So that was the process that was used for this case.
So they scored very badly, obviously. Were they just?
They scored below 65.
So they. Do they need assistance or anything? I mean, do they get assistance to help them put these grants together or these requests? I'm just, some of these things can be pretty daunting, I would think.
Yeah, and I don't believe we assisted anybody in completing their applications, but there was an application form and a guide online. I'm not sure that they sought any help from internal. I don't believe so.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
Councillor Vardy.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to talk a little bit about this. First of all, Community Living, Grimsby Lincoln, West Lincoln Foundation, great organization. So are the other 2 organizations that applied for the money. And I remember early on, McNally came forward and asked for money, and we said no, because we don't want it to be first past the post. You know, there has to be a fair process, you know, where everyone and anyone, any organization in Grimsby had the opportunity to apply. And, you know, so they were refused, and they were told, if you're interested, you've got to come through this process. And they did. And I think as much as I would like to see Community Living get money, we had a fair and equitable process. And next time, hopefully they'll be able to do better. I'm glad that we had, the criteria was very clear. 2 organizations were able to do, from what I understand, score very, very highly. And I'd like to see this program happen again. I think we have to cap the amount of money. It does help us support very worthy projects or programs in the community, but I think that, and I guess having spent most of my career working in federal grants and contributions programs, you know, you have to have a fair, equitable playing field where everybody is treated the same. And sometimes people will be disappointed. It's really unfortunate, but you know, I've in my work history, I've seen lots of excellent organizations not make the cut, and it just happens sometimes. And I think to kind of throw away our process, we're doing a disservice to why we put the process in place in the first place. So I will support this as proposed. Thank you.
Councillor Sharwell.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. Just a few questions, because I would like to know if this was a fair process as well. I remember in the report there were items that were eligible and ineligible, and then I couldn't find it on this report. Could you just go over what those are first?
Thank you, Councillor. Just give me a moment. I pull up the policy on my phone. I don't have the policy in front of me right now, but it is online as well, so happy to walk through that. But if you can hand that to me, I think I have it here. Thank you. I did have it up a minute ago, so let me see if I can find it again. I have to take my glasses off. Should pull up now. Okay, so eligibility, and sorry, I have to take my glasses off to read it here. Thanks, I got it. Eligible applicants, they had to be registered charitable organizations, incorporated not-for-profit organizations for at least 2 years, have a volunteer board of directors and constitution or governing bylaw, and be in good standing with the town of Grimsby and not in default on anything. Ineligible, so they could not be individuals, they could not be for-profit organizations or other levels of government, no political organizations or religious organizations unless for an inclusive project. Eligible costs were supplies and materials, facility or equipment rental and permits, equipments, vehicles, marketing, entertainment, excuse me, and speakers, incremental wages and contracted services related to the project, contributions to a capital project, project management, construction, renovation, design, engineering, etc. Ineligible would be regular operating costs, including regular staff wages, debt retirement or deficit reduction, depreciation or financing charges, retroactive payments, costs incurred before the grant's approval date, secondary allocations, including allocation of funds in another organization or fundraising for another organization, top-ups of shortfalls on government-mandated programs, activities that primarily serve the membership or purpose of a religious organization, expenses not directly related to the project. So the whole application and grant process is online, so there is a lot of information there as well, and it does include the assessment criteria as well that were discussed in the report.
Yeah, no, that's great. That satisfies that first one. Now, I know that the committee that approves these were made up of 3 staff members and 2 lay members. Just wondering how the lay members were selected and if you're allowed to say who the lay members were.
So that one, through the chair, I am not certain exactly how we selected those. My manager of accounting services was in charge of putting this together as part of the project, but I believe that they tried to get a mix of people from across different places within the organization to get a mix of qualifications and understandings. I can come back to you with that, though, after.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. Okay, that's all for my questions. Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, Chair, through you. First, I just want to say it's a great problem to have so many great organizations in the town. Back, I think it was February when we made the criteria, I thought we had agreed to 130,000 a year. So it's 100,000 now? Was it? I thought it was higher. Okay. It would have been, well, the request coming in at 121 would have been great if we could have just met it. Well, those are my comments.
All right, seeing no further questions, moved by Councillor Frank, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolve that report FIN 23-33 Grimsby Community Development Grant 2023-2024 organizational recipients dated December 4th, 2023 be received and that the selected applicant projects be approved for funding as recommended by the grant review panel under the conditions of the Grimsby Community Development Grant Program, and that council refer to the Grimsby Community Development Grant Program to be included as part of the 2024 budget deliberations. All in favor? That's carried. All right, next we move to Councillor Korstanji's short-term rental resolution. Need a mover and seconder. Mover, Councillor Korsanji, seconder, Councillor Bradsey. Councillor Korsanji, did you want to lead off discussions?
Sure, thank you, through you, Chair. So just to start, I'm very welcome to friendly amendments. If anybody would like to expand or make amendments, I'm open to that for sure. The thought process behind this is we do have people with using short-term rentals in our community, and I think it would be proactive of us to sort of have a system to have them regulated so we know where they are, how they're operating, and to have a process for them to go through, but also a process for the neighbors and the other people in the community to be able to, sort of like a system to be able to, if there are issues, sort of a system to go through. Niagara-on-the-Lake actually has a good one, it seems, in establishment where they actually have a third party that takes care of it, and there's a whole list of them all where they are, and there's a online registration, and they take fees, and it pays the fees, and then they have their short-term rental taxes. They use some of the fees to promote tourism. What I'm suggesting is, instead of doing that, whatever would, obviously we would need it to pay for itself, any excess would then in turn go into a pilot project to fund legal representation or legal needs for tenants in town if they are experiencing issues, or landlords. I'm open to that as well too. I know recently we had an education session for tenants in town that needed some, just some advice and to know what their rights are. And so, I know Hamilton has a pilot project going on with that. It has very regulated stipulations and stuff. But even for meeting spaces and paralegals and things like that. So I thought perhaps because other municipalities are doing this and the information is out there, that it wouldn't be too difficult for staff to sort of propose a plan for us, and then we could discuss it.
Councillor DeFlavio.
Thanks, Worship. Through you, a question for maybe our CAO or our clerk. Is this something that we can do in-house, you think, that we could, because I just don't want to see us having to consult on this, and the comprehensive study, will it include suggestions on the way that spending occurs? And further to Councillor Korsanji's, we definitely have some that are an issue that we need to regulate, I think. So I would like to see us include some sort of fine for misuse of properties as well, because as much as some of these companies have policies in place, the enforcement of those policies and the bots that are taking care of the people calling when the problems are occurring are not solving the problem in a couple of very specific cases that I can think of. So I think that we have to give our enforcement team a chance, the opportunity to enforce these things, and so I want to make sure that we have that written in there. So as long as that's part of the comprehensive can mean a lot of things. So I just wanted to see if maybe staff could respond to that.
Bonnie?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I spoke with our bylaw official today, and we talked about this very issue. We talked about all the things that need to happen. For example, education, public meetings. It's a full package. So we will certainly take the direction piece in, and it would definitely be done in-house. There's many examples and best practices that I believe Henry can draw from. He's already discussed with people because we knew this was coming. And I know it was done in St. Catharines, and I know it took a year in the making, because it's not simple when you start regulating, and we had a permit fee and all those kinds of things. So, yeah.
Councillor Sharwell.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. I'm happy to see this. I know I've spoke with the CAO and our mayor about this probably for a year, and I wasn't getting any support. So I'm happy that you're getting support for this.
Councillor Sharwell, I actually take offense to that, because it's something that both the CAO and myself have discussed it for a long time. And again, it's again. It's just always like to bend your views.
Okay, so anyhow, I would like to,
Councillor Vardy.
Yeah, I'd like to ask our colleague to withdraw those comments because they are incendiary and inappropriate and not helpful. Thank you.
can I continue? Okay. Yeah, I am happy that you're getting support for this. And the reason I support this is so that this is opening up the housing market, right? Because we're claiming that we don't have housing and these are sitting there, people are only using them part-time, and then there's other people that can't afford homes or have a place to live. So I support this wherever the pot of money goes. I'm hoping there, because this should be quite a bit of money. Ottawa has a very good pilot project as well. I know it's bigger, but can use things from that. But hopefully this can also help the municipality in other ways as well. I support it.
Councillor Bradzi.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. My question is this going to impact, say, Airbnb rental people? Are we kind of, is anyone? Yeah. Yeah? So would we be outlawing Airbnb in the town of Grimsby or just taxing it? Would we be promoting it? Yeah.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, so just to clarify, our current zoning bylaw does not allow for anything other than a bed and breakfast use. So a short-term licensing bylaw would kind of reflect the same message, and it would definitely impact those listed on Airbnb and would be a tool for enforcement to penalize individuals that were to misuse the property, for example.
Then my second question would be, I think I've floated the idea in the past about a potential, like a vacant house or vacant unit tax. Is that something we could explore alongside this or no?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the tax portion I don't have a great deal of experience with. From the short-term rental licensing side with a bylaw is kind of where my expertise would lie. I don't know if we've got anybody that could answer the tax question.
Through the chair. So there's a lot of different things in this. So the licensing is one part of the piece, and I think that's the proposal that's happening here. There's two different pieces here. So vacant homes tax is different legislation. You have to apply through the province. So there's a series of work that you have to do. I just did that work in Peel. That's now been kind of put on the sidelines, but there is a significant amount of work and administration involved in that program. I will tell you that Hamilton was going forward with it, and they just canceled the project in their budget process this year. So they had moved down that road. So it's not being used by a lot of municipalities at this point. Toronto has moved forward with it. Ottawa has moved forward with it. Durham just put theirs on hold. Halton put theirs on hold. So there's lots of pieces to it. It's different legislation. It requires a proposal to the province, and there's a different piece of work. I think the councillor's piece on the short-term rental tax is different. Normally that is a program that you have to do within your municipality. There's a mandated portion that has to go back to a tourism agency or local authority. Lincoln is working on that right now. I think they have a report going to their council this week. December 6th, I think they have a report, but they've been working on it for a couple of years and building out how that looks. And they're also using the funding. So I believe 85% of the funding in the first few years is going to the Tourism Association, who will do the licensing and collection. And then the other piece will fund other programs related to tourism within the community. So those guidelines, there's legislation within that. So there is regulations around short-term taxing. So a couple of different features there to look at. But yes, they're different kind of programs. I think what Henry is talking about is just the first piece, the licensing piece around the short term, and the revenues from the licensing that can be used a little bit differently. The tax revenue does have specifications around it.
Thank you, Stephanie. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say that, no, I think this is, in my opinion, something we should hear more information on. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Vardy.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I have a couple questions. One, I don't know the scale of how much this is an issue in Grimsby. Like, do we have a lot of Airbnbs or, you know, that kind of short-term rental? And I ask because, I mean, I'd hate to see us put so much effort into a program that, you know, is going to bring us a couple $100s. So, you know, because we don't allow Airbnbs in the first place. We allow bed and breakfast, which is a different, and that's already licensed and fine. So that's one thing. I guess I would say if there was any kind of program, if council did embark on that, I would like to see just the money come back to the town of Grimsby to be redistributed to various priorities as council saw fit. My bigger concern is, and you know, I think you know we've seen the problems when somebody will rent a place for a rave. You know, we've seen it. Like 100 people will come. It causes disruption to neighbors. We've seen where there have even been more significant, you know, 2 murders. We saw that. And, you know, we don't want to invite that kind of problem. And it seems, you know, I'm aware of a couple issues. So I think we need to have at least a very strong enforcement for landlords that are breaking the law. And, you know, just warnings, I don't think are enough. So not when it's causing so much disruption and worry to neighbors, you know, when they wake up and find, you know, 100 beer bottles all over their lawn. You know, that's not right. So if our zoning doesn't allow it, I'm not sure how much is even going on. Maybe you might know. I know of a couple, but I'm not sure how much of an issue it really is here.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So just doing a quick search on Airbnb myself prior to this meeting, we had found there was quite a few in Grimsby. 90% of them are illegal, do not conform to our current zoning bylaw. So with a short-term rental licensing bylaw, it would also be that enforcement piece because it'd be a municipal act bylaw. Therefore, we could implement AMPS in this program. We just recently seen the township of Wainfleet implement this, and their minimum fines for any violation is $5,000 up to $20,000. So they take it very seriously there. Niagara-on-Lake, from my previous experience in that municipality, has kind of followed suit, not with that level of fines, but this bylaw would be able to provide that licensing perspective for those legal Airbnbs, and we would be able to use those funds how we allocate internally, and then also use that bylaw as an enforcement piece to ensure that we hold these landlord and property owners responsible for these actions.
All right, thank you.
Councillor DeFlavio.
Just to clarify, I just did a quick search. There are 128 on Airbnb just in the municipal boundary of Grimsby. So there are a significant amount. It doesn't mean they're all getting used all the time, but there are 128 listed right now for rent. So it is something that through you, Mayor, that I think the regulation of will allow us to make sure that they're being used properly. And then if we set standards that we can enforce those standards. If we don't have anything written down, then, like you said, if 90% of them are illegal, do we want to go after all these? They're all property owners. They're all taxpayers. Having a system in place, I think, allows us to, and it's very common. It's not like, you know, more and more common that municipalities are putting a system in place. My only concern is that there won't be the extra income that Councillor Cristangi is talking about, because it'll be kind of the money that is, any money being generated by it will be required to enforce it. So that, I hope that'll be part of the report, because, you know, if the goal is to generate revenue, I think that the enforcement of this is going to take time and money as well, and staff time as well. So I'm not opposed to Airbnbs. I think that it's, that economy is one that exists, but the regulation of, I think we've had discussions about, Henry, you and I, about specific sites that are being rented out to, not for raves, but to large groups of people that are having weddings and those kinds of things. And the impact on neighboring properties is definitely one that we need to make sure is put in the bylaw, so it doesn't have a negative impact on the people that live next door or in the neighborhood. That's it. Thanks.
Councillor Vardy, then Councillor Korstanji. Go ahead. If you still have a comment, go ahead.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just one thing to add on there. Under our zoning bylaw, when going after these individuals, we don't have the opportunity for AMPs. So with this bylaw made under the Municipal Act, it would be a more efficient enforcement process and issuing of charges and fines under the AMPs process. It would keep all of those fines internally as well as a revenue. So that would be another revenue stream found under that basically short-term rental licensing bylaw.
So I stand corrected. I had no idea that there were that many. And so I'd like to make a friendly amendment that the potential revenue would be returned to the town.
Councillor Korstanji.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I don't expect to make a lot of money off this. It really isn't the point. I mean, it's to help regulate it and to be prepared because it's happening. And it's smart to be prepared. And it can be a good tourism part of our community as well, too. I mean, it can be to our benefit and to the owner's benefit. But like you said, any revenue that is generated from fines or from things that is in excess, I would like to see it allocated to help the current residents in the town who are tenants who are struggling. And I mean, we're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. $500 will pay for a paralegal for a couple hours to have an information session. So everything and anything can help. And if we can allocate it to where it will help, that's really my goal.
All right, seeing no further discussion. I think, Councillor Vardy, rather than change this resolution, it'll be noted as a direction for staff, as well as proceeding with the AMPS program. That's in the discussion that'll be, that's been given to staff. So, moved by Councillor Korstanji, second by Councillor Bradzi. Whereas implementing a short-term rental tax or licensing system within our municipality can aim to enhance both the regulatory framework for short-term rentals and the promotion of tourism, whereas such a system can ensure compliance with local regulations and contribute to the municipality's revenue stream, whereas revenue generated from this initiative can be allocated towards establishing a pilot program fund designated for legal representation for local tenants. This fund would be dedicated to providing legal representation and support services to local tenants facing housing-related legal challenges. The provision of legal aid for tenants will contribute to a more equitable and fair housing environment within our community. Therefore, be it resolved that staff conducted a comprehensive study on the potential implementation of a short-term rental tax or licensing system and establishment of the pilot project fund. This study should encompass an analysis of similar initiatives in other municipalities, potential revenue projections, administrative requirements, and the feasibility of allocating a portion of the revenue for tenant legal representation. All in favor? That's carried. All right, up next we have Councillor Davoli, keeping of domestic farm animals. Councillor Davoli is the mover. Seconder, Councillor Korstanji. Discussion? Councillor Davoli.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. There has been a concern raised by residents, specifically in Ward 1 at this point in time, about farm animals being kept, and farm animals being kept in the examples that have been given are specifically within the area that is governed by the Niagara Escarpment Development Commission's area. Because of that, because of the specific location and the examples that have been brought forward, our zoning bylaw is suspended under this, and therefore we can't use our zoning bylaw to actually address these issues. And so what I'm asking for in this notice of motion is that we ask staff to investigate and report back to us on what the options are available to us over keeping of farm animals. And I would like to just reiterate, specifically in residential areas, we're not, this issue is not coming forward to worry about, the chicken barns and things like that up on the escarpment. That's all perfectly okay. But we're really concerned about the keeping of domestic animals in the more urban and residential areas. The example that the concern that some of the residents have brought forward is that they, because there are some farm animals being kept in residential areas, they have foxes, coyotes, and so on coming into those areas. Their pets are out and are being attacked, and in one particular case even had to be put down. And so the neighborhood is feeling the increased presence of wildlife in the area because these domestic farm animals are being domesticated and kept in that area. And so really what we're asking tonight, or what I'm asking, is that you would all share this concern and that you would ask with me staff to investigate and report back to us on what the options are under how we can actually control the raising of this and what we can do about all of this in the residential areas only. And so really this is asking staff for a report, and then we can deal with what the recommendations and ramifications are following that.
Councillor Korsanji.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, just a quick question. Does this include if there's like an established business of like wildlife care or animal care in a residence? I'm just thinking like we have rescue centers and stuff like that are in neighborhoods. So I'm just wondering if that falls into this, or will that be excluded?
I'm going to say we're going to, at this point in time, I don't have an answer nor a thought or policy on that. We're just referring the matter back to staff to ask for their more comprehensive review of what other municipalities are doing in those areas and how they are managing it, and then coming back with a report to us.
Councillor Bradzi.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. My question is, as far as I'm aware anyway, I believe nobody is allowed to raise certain livestock animals in a residential area. Like, for instance, it is outlawed. Backyard chickens are not allowed. Is the goal to change that? So, want to answer that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the keeping of farm animals is found under our zoning bylaw. So in this specific case, in the Niagara Escarpment Development Control Area, our zoning bylaw is actually suspended. So we can't utilize that local bylaw to deal with these concerns. So it wouldn't be changing the zoning bylaw itself. It'd just be a municipal act bylaw to deal with the concerns within the residential and Niagara Escarpment Development Control areas.
Okay, thank you, Henry. My concern was there, we started allowing backyard chickens everywhere, and we already got enough coyotes terrorizing people's kitties and dogs. That's all my thoughts.
No, I think what the intent of this resolution is here is that we have an area in the escarpment lands that we can't enforce the way we have it now. So we have to write a bylaw that is enforceable on escarpment lands. Any further questions? All right, moved by Councillor Devoldy, second by Councillor Korsanji. Whereas the town of Grimsby has a bylaw in effect that prohibits the keeping of certain domestic farm animals in certain areas of the town, and whereas this bylaw does not address the keeping of domestic farm animals in all residential areas of the town, and whereas the keeping of domestic farm animals does attract wildlife into these residential areas, and whereas this wildlife may be dangerous to the residents and pets of the residents should there be encounters, and whereas the town should be proactive in reviewing this bylaw against best practices to ensure its relevance meets the town's present needs, and therefore be it resolved that council directs staff to investigate and report on options available to council in the keeping of domestic farm animals throughout the residential area of the town, including all related bylaws. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, we have Councillor Howe's notice of motion, Niagara Escarpment Crossing Project. Councillor Howe?
Thank you, Mayor. If I wanted to just, everybody's got this, the copy, but I would like to add something just as part of the last resolution as to another party to be, do I just read it in? Oh, okay. Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, shall I start to regurgitate this? Thank you. Whereas connectivity has been a consideration in the Niagara region for over 30 years, and whereas the Niagara Escarpment Crossing Project has been identified as a potential solution in the Niagara Escarpment Crossing Master Plan to improve connectivity between the north and south regions of West Niagara, and whereas there are documented safety concerns with the current existing crossings, such as deep slopes, speedings, inconsistent and under-maintained road signage and markings, and whereas the town of Grimsby and town of Lincoln see heavy volume of truck traffic and narrow laneways, and whereas the town of Grimsby, the town of Lincoln, and the township of West Lincoln have collectively advocated for the Niagara Escarpment Crossing project at the 2023 AMO conference, and whereas the new proposed crossing is necessary to the local economy, providing a route to facilitate the movement of goods, people, and growth, and whereas the terms of reference process is not projected to be completed by the Niagara region until the spring of 24, with review and approval by the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks projected for the fall of 24. This is a process that must be completed prior to the commencement of the environmental assessment. Therefore, be it resolved that council direct the mayor and/or the CAO to the necessity of expediting the terms of reference development process to the Niagara region so that the environmental assessment can be started in a timely manner. And further be resolved that this resolution be circulated to Niagara West MPP, Sam Moosterhoff, and does it say Ontario Ministry? Okay. Is it there? Okay, anyways, to the Minister, the Ontario Minister of Transportation, and I'm sorry, sir, Permet Sakaria. I apologize, sir. And I acknowledge that this notice of motion will be consideration at the December 18th, 2023 council. Now, may I make a comment?
No, you're not allowed. No, notice of motions don't.
Oh, okay.
You'll have to wait till the
Oh, darn.
18th. All right, up next we have correspondence from the Niagara region, City of Niagara Falls, Town of Fort Erie. Wow. All right, up next, we have correspondence from the Niagara region, City of Niagara Falls, Town of Fort Erie, and Ombudsman, Ontario. Need a mover and seconder for the correspondence. Moved by Councillor Bradzi, second by Councillor Frake. Moved by Councillor Bradzi, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that the correspondence from Niagara Region, City of Niagara Falls, Town of Fort Erie be received, and further, Council endorse the letter and support any recommendations within the Ombudsman's report dated November 29th, 2023. All in favor? That's carried. Can I get a mover and seconder to approve bylaws 2397 to 23101? Moved by Councillor DeFlavio. Second, Councillor DeVoley. Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor DeVoley. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaws 23-97 to 23-101, inclusive save and accept bylaw 2396, 266 Main Street West, and that the same be read a first time, considered, and passed. All in favor? That's carried. Well, it's done. I just did it, so. What's your question?
Through Mayor Dern, thank you. 23-101, I just wanted clarification on how this came to be. So 23-101 is a bylaw to set remuneration for members of council and to repeal 2033, right? I just don't, just clarification on how this came to be, because Corporate Services, July 4th, approved, I'll just pull it up, approved the review process. And again, that was discussion report, CAO 2304, compensation job market review. Resolve the report CAO 2304, compensation job market review dated July 4th be received. And it also had Town of Grimsby and included Town Council as amended. So I'm just wondering how we got to this.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and if I need some help, Stephanie, please feel free to jump in. But this bylaw is really just about paying council January 1, 2024, because what's happened is the present bylaw that we have that allows us to pay elected officials, that bylaw expires at the end of December 2023. This just allows us to really pay you. And the piece in there that might be a bit confusing, it's not a raise, it's COLA. It's a cost of living allowance. So it's not part of the remuneration piece that I think you're, that sounds like it's getting confused. So it's just that you will be compensated the same as any staff COLA increases and adjustments.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
So yeah, just to clarify, under Section 284 of the Municipal Act, we are required to have this bylaw just to be able to pay council for this.
All right, so we actually voted on those and they were carried. Next meeting of, all right, I'll read it again. Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor DeVoley. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaws 2397 to 23101, inclusive save and accept bylaw 2396, 266 Main Street West, and that same be read a first time, considered, and passed. All in favor? It's carried. Next meeting of council is scheduled for December 18th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Now need a mover and seconder to go into closed session. Councillor Bradzi, Councillor Korstanji. Moved by Councillor Bradzi, second by Councillor Korstanji. Resolved that council proceed into closed session under Section 2392B Municipal Act, which states a closed meeting is held if the subject matter being considered is about personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. All in favor to go into closed? And that's carried. We'll be back on stream after the closed session. Good night to everyone that's leaving now. All right, welcome back, everyone. We're now back in open session. Can I get a mover and seconder to approve the appointments to GDAC, Age Friendly and Culture Committee? Moved by Councillor Korsanji, second by Councillor Bradzi. Moved by Councillor Korsanji, second by Councillor Bradzi. Stuck. Resolved that the appointments approved in closed session be approved and staff advise the applicants accordingly. All in favor? That's carried. All right, need a mover and seconder to pass the confirming bylaw. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Frake. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaws 23-102, read a first time, now be read a second and third time, and finally passed, and that mayor and the town clerk do sign and seal the same, and rule council to the contrary notwithstanding. All in favor? That's carried. Meeting is adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night.